Here we go, y'all. Here we go. This is in the Wall Street Journal. Biden administration quietly steps up effort to close Guantanamo. Special representative named to oversee efforts to transfer detainees out of military facility in Cuba. This is what we like to call a dark Brandon moment. That's what this is right here. Look, if you get a situation now where they say the Iran deal is on the brink of being revived, if you get that and he closes Guantanamo in a short time span before the next election, now I'm not naive enough to think that these particular issues are motivating voters, right? Because they're not. It's just, I wish they did, but they don't. It'd be so based if he closed Guantanamo and got back in the Iran deal. That would certainly make me and other principled lefties go, oh shit, that's what's up. So it's not animating voters, but it would be two more big victories that further solidify Biden's reputation now as, in my opinion, better than Obama. I think he's already surpassed Obama. So here's what they say. This is the first time I'm reading this article. We're going to learn about it together here. The Biden administration is revamping its effort to close the Guantanamo Bay prison, for the first time appointing a senior diplomat to oversee detainee transfers and signaling it won't interfere with plea negotiations that could resolve the long-stalled prosecution of alleged mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 co-defendants. After taking a low-profile approach to the matter for the first year of his term to avoid political controversy, President Biden is moving to fulfilling a campaign promise to shut the facility, people familiar with the matter said. The facility at the U.S. Navy base in Cuba was set up in January 2002 to house alleged foreign terrorists captured overseas. Guantanamo has held nearly 800 men since then. Only 36 detainees remain at the facility today after hundreds were returned home or resettled in third countries by George W. Bush and Barack Obama administrations. The newest detainee arrived in 2008. Some of the men have been held for 2 decades. 9 of the remaining detainees are defendants in military commission proceedings, including 5 accused of conspiracy, murder in violation of the law of war, hijacking or hazarding a vessel or aircraft, and terrorism in the September 11th case. So let me pause here to tell you guys, Guantanamo should have never been opened in the first place. It is illegal, it is unconstitutional, it is extrajudicial. This means we don't believe in human rights, we don't believe in the Magna Carta to do something like this. Everything is supposed to be justice is blind, follow the law, even if sometimes it makes you uncomfortable. That's how you're supposed to handle this stuff. And what happened with Guantanamo was particularly egregious because Dick Cheney and George W. Bush cut a deal with warlords in Pakistan and Afghanistan and said, hey, we were just attacked here on 9/11. If you guys know anybody who's part of Al-Qaeda, send them to us. Because we want revenge. We want retribution. We want to get back at these people. And guess what? It turns out warlords in Afghanistan and Pakistan are not the most trustworthy sources. So what did they do? They rounded up their own political enemies and shipped them to us. And we ended up locking people up who were totally innocent of any wrongdoing. And we locked them up illegally for years. I remember one of the first videos I ever did for Secular Talk, for this YouTube channel, was about a guy named Murat Kurnaz, who is a German citizen, totally innocent of any crime. And he was locked up and tortured, and he was at Guantanamo Bay for years. Actually, to be fair, I don't know if it was Abu Ghraib or Guantanamo. I think it was Guantanamo. He was there for years. And the German government needed to intervene to say, that's our citizen, give him back to us. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing here. There's no trial. What are you doing? What are you doing? So that's what we're talking about with Guantanamo Bay. The whole reason we have due process is to make sure the government gets it right. They can't just lock you up willy-nilly because they feel like maybe you did something wrong or they heard from somebody else maybe you did something wrong. You have to prove it. There needs to be evidence. And Guantanamo Bay was the opposite of that. Evidence, schmevidence. They don't care about that at all, not even the slightest bit. And so it was a crime. It was a crime from the beginning. Abd al-Rahim al-Nashiri has been charged with perfidy. I don't even know what that means. Murder in violation of the law of war, terrorism, conspiracy, and hazarding a vessel in planning attacks on 3 vessels, including the 2000s bombing of the USS Cold that killed 17 sailors. Okay, so my understanding is that when we had 800 people there, 80, 90% of them were innocent, never did anything wrong. Now we're at the point where the people who remain, there's pretty good reason to believe that they're guilty, right? So what do you do now? Well, I think the step they're going to take is military commission, present the evidence, and then find them guilty for real and put them in a real prison. Okay, but that should have been done years ago, dog. But look, at least they're doing it now, right? Better than nothing. 4 detainees are being held indefinitely without charge because authorities consider them a security risk. 20 others have been cleared for transfer by review board, including defense, intelligence, and law enforcement officials. But moving the men out has proven harder than the Biden team expected, the People said. Some critics of the Biden administration's actions on closing the prison, both within and outside the administration, say newer crises have been occupying the national security staff, and the potential for being branded soft on terrorism has slowed the administration's efforts, they say. See, now here's the thing that drives me crazy. Of course the right's going to melt down, and they're going to lie, and they're going to lie, and they're going to lie. They're going to say, Biden is, like they said, soft on terrorism. He's not going to keep America safe. This is not right. And just call it for what it is. It's a lie. This is the exact reason, by the way, that Joe Biden is not releasing the money that belongs to the Central Bank of Afghanistan back to the Central Bank of Afghanistan. Because he's afraid that the Republicans are going to say, Joe Biden funding the Taliban to the tune of billions of dollars. And that's not true. That is Afghanistan's own money. We had no right to take it in the first place. We didn't. And by the way, if you release that money, what's going to happen? The people of Afghanistan are going to have a meal. Right now, they're starving. There's a famine. Millions of people are being crushed as a result of these sanctions and the U.S. government not returning their money to them. And so it's all for optics. I'm afraid I'm going to be called soft on terrorism, so I'm not going to do it. Fuck that, man. Do the right thing for once. And you want them to go all in and act like you're soft on terror. Let them babble about that. That's not going to motivate voters anyway. It's not true, number one. Number two, it's not going to motivate voters anyway. What he's doing now, ironically, is the thing that should really potentially get him impeached. Because this is the crime. The crime is starving an entire country to avoid bad optics. Because getting out of Afghanistan, getting all the boots on the ground out, that was unquestionably the right thing to do. I don't care what any idiots in the media say. What do they want? To stay there forever? Whenever we pulled out, the country was going to collapse. What do you want to do? Stay there forever? Fuck that. No. So they were right to pull out, but they're wrong to starve the country and withhold their money from them. The White House is seeking to avoid the kind of backlash that stymied Mr. Obama's plans after his high-profile calls to shut the prison down. Congress responded to the Obama administration's effort to close the Guantanamo prison in 2010 by passing a ban on the transfer of Guantanamo detainees to the U.S. Quote, the administration doesn't want to look like it's soft on terrorism and is awaiting a political consensus. That's never going to happen. And Harvey Rishikoff, a former head of the military commission's apparatus, who helped draft a recent report on closing the facility from the University of Pennsylvania's Center for Ethics and the Rule of Law. Mr. Biden's new special representative position, the critics also say, lacks the clout similar offices had under the Obama administration, where Guantanamo envoys had direct access to the Secretary of State. The new special representative, Tina Kadenow, a former ambassador at large for counterterrorism, has been placed further down in the State Department hierarchy, they say. A State Department spokesman said Ms. Kadenow was unavailable for comment. The Defense Department is moving ahead with a Donald Trump-era project building a third courtroom at Guantanamo Bay at a cost of $4 million, even though no additional trials are expected at the naval base. A military commission spokesman said an extensive expansion of Guantanamo's trial facilities, including a new courtroom, would allow military judges to hold simultaneous multi-defendant lengthy trials. Okay. So look, the way that sounds to me at the end there is that he's not sold on doing it. So I don't know if the Wall Street Journal's report here is accurate, that he is a low-key trying to shut it down and he's getting the ball moving on that, or if it's all just a show and ultimately he's going to do nothing. I would not be surprised to see that go either way. But what I will say is, we've seen on drone strikes, for example, Biden has been way better than any of us thought he would be, because he has significantly reduced drone strikes. Now, some of the data suggests he like literally stopped doing drone strikes. I'm not sure I buy that, because I think the disclosure rules at the end of the Trump era changed, so he could be doing strikes, but not really reporting it officially in the data. I don't know the answer to that, but at the very least, there was a massive reduction, because we get almost no new reports of drone strikes when we got them all the time, when Obama was doing them and when Trump was doing them. So at the very least, he did the right thing on that front. If he gets back in the Iran deal and he closes Guantanamo, that would be, add that to the list, dog. Add that to the list of decent things, and I'm still going to have to go with the nickname Bare Minimum Biden, but 2 or 3 more things on top of that, and all of a sudden, he ain't even bare minimum anymore, dog. He's more than bare minimum, because you guys know the list that we've gone through. You guys know the new policies. The most base thing the Democrats ever did, they stuck it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturned the ability of the EPA to regulate carbon emissions. They said you're not allowed to do that. And what did the Biden administration do? They slipped into the IRA, defining carbon emissions as a pollutant, and then that now allows the EPA to regulate it again. Incredibly based. 15% corporate minimum tax rate. Incredibly based. $64 billion dollars more for Obamacare. Incredibly based. Negotiating some lower prescription drug prices. Semi-based, because they really should be negotiating all drug prices, right? But I guess some Manchin or Sinema or some corporate ghoul threw a wrench into that one. But we got some. I mean, the list goes on and on here. $6,000 or $7,000 tax credit for electric vehicles. Incredibly based. The PACT Act. Based. The CHIPS Act. Semi-based, because the specifics of it are concerning, and Bernie Sanders has pointed out it's possible that they pass this bill and the chip manufacturers don't deliver on the promises that are on paper. If that happens, I'll be the first to tell you, and I will be incredibly pissed off and against it, but bringing microchip manufacturing back to the U.S., based. And we need to do that. If it was a different bill or this bill, we had to do it, right? So that's good. There's a whole bunch of stuff we could point to now. You know, the lesser evil vote, which, by the way, I didn't even make because I'm in New York, so I didn't vote for Biden. But for people who did, looking like it was the right move now. Especially with, he signed the executive order to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour for hundreds of thousands of federal employees and federal contractors. These are things Trump never would have done in a million years. And so, look, let's hope it continues. But honestly, on the Guantanamo thing, I'm 50-50 after reading the specifics of the article, if it will happen. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.